Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over installing private internet access directly onto OPNsense, and this is going to allow you to route either your entire network traffic through the VPN, only one device through the VPN, or anywhere in between that amount of devices. You're also going to be able to do devices that you normally wouldn't be able to install the VPN client on, like TVs, game consoles, stuff like that. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, I want to give a shout out to Lawrence Systems. He made this video a little over 3 years ago now. It was for pfsense. It was using PIA, but it was for pfsense. So between that and the over 3 years of age, some things are a little dated and don't line up as well. But a lot of what I did and will do in OpenSense here is based off of what he did in this video here. So shout out to him. So let's kind of break down what we're going to do here exactly. So normally you have all your different devices, and a lot of times you would install the VPN client directly onto those devices. So if you have a couple desktops and a laptop, you're going to install the PIA client on there. If you have a cell phone, you're going to install their app. But certain things, maybe like a Xbox 360, you can't normally install a VPN on. But other than that, you're going to take all your devices, put the VPN on them, and then they're all going to individually connect to the VPN server and then go out to the internet. What we are going to do is make it so any device that we specify when it's connected to our router, which is OpenSense, is going to automatically go through a PIA VPN interface. It doesn't matter what the device is. You don't need the VPN client installed locally on those devices. So things like game consoles will work, things like TVs will work, and again, you can set your entire network or just a handful of devices to route through the VPN, but it's all going to be handled by the router itself. Nothing is installed on the devices. So what do we need to accomplish this? Well, again, this is taking place on OpenSense for the router. This is currently running version 25.1.3. We are Saturday, March 15th, 2025. And you need a VPN service that offers OpenVPN configuration downloads. So private internet access works. It's what I use normally. It just also happens to work for this. But if your VPN provider provides you with OpenVPN configurations, then you can also do this on OpenSense. So if you have private internet access, what you're going to need to do is log in and go to downloads. You're going to see a bunch of options here. And when you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see some OpenVPN configuration options. You can view their default configurations, and you can download all of them if you want and pick from there, but I like doing the generator to kind of make a custom one for exactly what I want and only what I want. So you're going to stick with the default of 2.4 or newer. We're going to go to Linux. And then down here, you're going to choose the region that you want to use. So if you want your server to go from China, select that. Egypt, select that. But we are just going to do US Alaska. And then scroll down. I would recommend choosing either one of these UDP 1197 options. I'm just going to stick with the second one here. And then I like using the IP address in the configuration. And that configuration file is going to look a little bit like this. So you're going to have a bunch of configuration options up here. You're going to have either the IP or the host name, depending on if you checked this box or not. And you can have the port, some other stuff that we don't really need because it's just going to be done automatically. And then some cert information down here, which we will use in a moment. So unless you want to download any more configurations, you can close out of PIA. And now we are going to head into OpenSense and do everything from there. So to start, we need to add the CA certificate that came in the configuration file. So if you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see this CA with a line that says begin certificate, and it's going to be a bunch of what looks like gibberish going down to end certificate. You need to copy all the way from that top line and scroll all the way down and copy all the way through the end of certificate. In OpenSense, you then need to go to System, Trust, and Certificates. You can see I already have one here, but I'm going to add another one just to test. And you might have a self-signed web one, and then if you have your own domain and do stuff with that, you might have a custom one in there as well. But you're going to go to the bottom right here and click Add, and then we are going to import an existing certificate and name it something. In this case, I'm just going to name it Test, but if you wanted just to name it PIA or whatever you want to name it, go ahead and do it there. And then paste the certificate data that we copied from the configuration file into this top box here, and then click Save. And if you did it correctly, it should auto-populate with PIA's information. It should detect all of this. And if you get all of this here, that means that you copied and pasted it correctly. Even one character off, for example, I'll go and I'll just delete this Z right there and hit save. You can now see that all of that configuration information is gone. If you're missing any characters, it might not let you save it, or if you don't see all of this here, you need to redo it and make sure you copied this exactly as I did. So on the left, you're going to go to VPN and OpenVPN and expand that. So this actually used to be done, I believe, under this legacy clients section. But if you go to that now, you can see they are not maintaining this anymore as a version 26.1. And instead, you now are going to use this instances option here. So you can see I already have a couple done. I have US Chicago and I have India. And now we are going to add Alaska. So you're going to go to the bottom right, click on the plus sign again, which is add. We are going to go change the role to client. And then we're also going to turn on advanced mode because we need a couple of things in there. And we're basically just going to start filling this out from some of the stuff that we have in the configuration file here. So the description, you can name this whatever you want. I'm going to kind of stick with the existing naming system that I have and call it PIA US Alaska. Enabled, obviously, protocol, whatever you have. We went with UDP. The port number in this case is 1197, bind address blank, type is ton. You can keep that to 3 if you want. You can leave both of those blank, and then for remote, that is the actual IP address of the VPN or the host name if you used that, but I'm using the IP address. Scrolling down some more, under trust we have certificate. We need to select the PIA one that we made or whatever you named it a few minutes ago. And then certificate authority, we're going to also select PIA. Under authentication, this is going to be your PIA username and password, and then nothing under routing, and the only thing we need under miscellaneous is options, and you're going to select the very bottom option, which is route-no pull. That is important. And once you have all that, just click on Save, and then you're going to have to click Apply down here. And if you go to Connection Status, we are now going to see PIA US Alaska, and you can see that it is connected. At this point, we're done with the configuration file, so you can go ahead and get rid of that. And then we need to actually create and assign this interface. So you're going to go on the left to Interfaces and Assignments, and you should have a blank one down here. So you can see this is OpenVPN 3, and it's the client that I named PIA US Alaska, and it's asking for a description, so I'm going to give it the exact same name, PIA US Alaska, and hit add, and then you will now see that up here in your list of interfaces. After assigning the interface, you actually need to go into the settings and enable it. So you can click on it from there, or you can click on it over here on the left. We need to enable interface, and we don't need to change anything else, and hit save, and then hit apply up in the top right. Once that's done, head over to System, Gateways, Configuration, and make sure that a PIA US Alaska gateway was created, which in this case it was. We then need to go into the firewall section, and the first step we're going to do here is go to NAT and Outbound, and we need to create a NAT rule. So first, up here, select Hybrid NAT Rule Generation, click on Save, and then once we go down here, you're going to click on Add, and you're going to choose the interface of the VPN that we just created, so we are using US Alaska. The source needs to be whatever LAN the devices are going to be on. So in my case, any device that I route through this VPN is going to originate from my LAN home subnet. So that is what I'm going to select here. If you have a different one, obviously you need to set that up however you need to set that up. And the translation target is going to be the exact same interface address that we set earlier. So in this case, it's US Alaska. And then you can go down and hit save. And once you have saved it, you're going to go again to the top right and hit apply. So when you're done, you should have something that looks like this. So the interface is going to be the VPN interface. The source is going to be whatever subnet you have your devices on that are going to connect to the VPN. Source port, destination port, all wildcard, and NAT address is going to be, again, an address of the VPN interface that we're using. NAT port wildcard, static port, no. We're then going to go up to aliases, and I'm going to copy this here because I'm going to use a similar naming scheme. So this is where, if we go to the bottom right, we can click on Add, and this is where we are going to specify what devices actually get routed out over the VPN. So I'm going to change the name of this to addresses over PIA_US_Alaska. Again, you can name this whatever you want. I just try to keep the naming similar. And type is going to be host, and under content, this is where you're actually going to enter either individual IPs or entire subnets of devices that you want to route specifically through US Alaska. So my LAN home subnet is 10.1.4.0. If I wanted to do that entire subnet, I would do that /24 and hit enter, and now that is added. So any device in that subnet is now going to route through US Alaska. If I only want to do one device, I would do 10.1.4. that specific device IP. I have a test machine up, and that is 13, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that here. If I also wanted to do 20, I could do that. And if I wanted to do an entirely different subnet, say .5, I could add that as well. So I could have two devices off of .4 and every device off of .5. Again, however you want to configure this here, and give it some sort of description. Routed, I'll say routed through Alaska. And whatever devices you want routed through Alaska, enable them up in this content box. And hit save when you're done, and then hit apply on the bottom. We now need to make the rules that actually route the traffic through the VPN and also block it if the gateway goes down. So we're going to go to Firewall, Rules, and then you're going to go to whatever subnet, again, that your devices are on, which in my case is LAN home. Go ahead and ignore this first one for now. You can see I have a couple down here already doing their thing for these two VPN interfaces. So we're going to go create a new one here. Interface is going to be LAN home, direction in, IPv4, protocol any. The source is going to be the alias addresses over PIA US Alaska. So the source is that alias of whatever IPs you have set to route over the VPN. Destination is going to be any. Description, route to Alaska. I'm going to go down to gateway, and you're going to change this from default to the IPv4 gateway of your VPN server. So PIA US Alaska, VPN v4 in my case. We then need to go and expand advanced features because we are going to do step one of our kill switch here. So step one of that is this category set local tag, and you need to type something in there. It can be anything that you want, but you need to remember it or write it down or come back to this later because we are going to put the exact same thing in a different firewall rule in a couple minutes here. So set local tag, can type this whatever you want. Mine is just PrivateVPN only. Go down and hit save, and then hit apply changes, and you might need to move this rule up. First of all, I'm going to enable logging on it, and then I'm actually going to move it up to the second from the top here, and once you have that moved where you need to, hit apply changes again, and you're good to go. We're then going to go to rules and floating, and this is where we are going to create our kill switch. So you can see I already have one here, so I'm just going to edit that. So the action is going to be block. The interface is going to be the WAN interface, any direction, any source, any destination. Again, give it some sort of description like block VPN leaks. And then we are again going to expand the advanced features, scroll down a little bit, and where we put that set local tag earlier, we are now going to drop that into the match local tag. So whatever you typed up here a couple steps ago, you need to do the exact same thing down here. And then hit save, and again, hit apply. So what that will do is if the VPN gateway goes down for whatever reason, and the traffic from LAN home tries to route over the WAN, well, those packets are tagged, and this floating rule will check, and if it catches any of those tagged packets trying to go out over the WAN, it will block them. So that is essentially your kill switch. So at this point, you are pretty much done, and any IP address that you enter into the alias for PIA US Alaska will now route through the Alaska VPN gateway. The only thing you might need to change is if you use locally hosted DNS servers, which I'm guessing a lot of you do if you're watching a type of video like this, you actually need to add a rule before any of those explicitly for your DNS servers. So you need that because if your device tries to make a DNS request, well, it's going to send all of the traffic to the VPN gateway, right? If your DNS servers are on the public internet like Quad9 or Cloudflare, Google, whatever, those route out just fine. But if you're trying to route to a local IP to do DNS out through the VPN gateway, that doesn't work. So before those outbound gateway rules, you need to set a rule that allows those local IPs that are going to be routed through the VPN, you need to allow them to connect to your DNS servers first. So if there's any local DNS traffic, the very first rule it hits is allowing it to your DNS servers. Any other traffic after that is going to come down and hit your US Alaska rule or whatever it happens to be to actually route through the VPN. So if you just use Quad9, you don't use a local DNS server, you don't have to worry about this. But if you do use a local DNS server, you have to explicitly, first before the other stuff, add a rule to allow that. All right, so now that we've got it all set up, let's actually see this in use. So I have a test machine over here running Mint. I did IPA, so you can see there's only one Ethernet adapter on here, and that is on my home LAN with 10.1.4.13. There's no other VPN interface or anything. So over on the router here, if I check my US Alaska, you can see that I have one IP specified, which is 10.1.4.13. So all of that is being routed through that VPN gateway. So if we go over here and curl ifconfig.co, and you can see that the IP is 84.239.52.19, which is Alaska. So the VPN is up and running for this machine here. Now to change that, all we need to do is go to our aliases and switch that IP to something else. So if I want this to go through India instead, I'm going to change my India alias to 10.1.4.13 and hit save, and then I'm going to remove it from my Alaska alias. And once I've done that, I'm going to go down here and hit apply and let that load for a second. I'm going to go back to the rules and the LAN home page here. I'm going to pull up our test machine again over here. Going to go ahead and clear this out. And if we run a new IP check, you can see the IP has now changed to 103, 108, 174, 117, and it's showing India. And again, this works on everything. Here's an example of my RGH Xbox 360. As you can see here, my local IP is 10.1.4.16, and that is being routed through this IP here, which is my Chicago server. Now, kind of a demonstration of the kill switch. So you can see here in the test machine, I'm pinging 1.1.1.1, and you can see that that traffic was routed over PIA India. And I'm going to go to the gateway configurations to simulate that stopping. So I'm actually going to disable India IPv4 and hit apply. And I'm going to go back to the view of our firewall here. And if I try to ping 1.1.1 again, you can now see that that is blocked. And the source is actually now my WAN IP because it's not going over the VPN interface anymore. So it is properly blocking this traffic going out over my WAN IP, which is good. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything, drop them down below. If this helped you, if you got some use out of it, hit that like button. And yeah, hopefully you guys learned something and you're able to use this in a good way. So thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you next time.